So in this video, I wanted to share my experience as being a software engineer, African-American software engineer who work big corporation. And I wanted to kind of share what have been my experience so far, and hopefully you can gain some insight or maybe some entertainment out of it. As you can see, I am a Black software engineer. And if you look into the statistics, there are not that many of us. It's about 2 or 3% of us working in the field. Personally, I'm not like those type of software engineer who took any shortcut. What I mean by shortcut, I'm talking in terms of education. In terms of education, I usually try my best to get to the best university that I could afford and try to complete, the most rigorous program that you can think of in terms of qualification. So it was not difficult for me to get into the field because I have the right qualification, like I said, and then did the proper internship and did everything, that is expected to be at the level that you are. However, sometimes we have to say things for what they are, and sometimes they're not pretty, but they still have to say it. I don't have any evidence that has anything to do with my skin color, but I I think I understand in a way. So maybe if I say something that's a little bit off for my user, you can tell me. But here's what happened. I think this is what I think is happening, but trust me. I see when people get moved, they move in cluster. So far, most of the people that I've worked with are, I'm talking about group. They are, let's say, Asian, right? There's a lot of people from India, from China, right? You have the Asian community in tech. You have the, Caucasian community in tech. And then you have, So what I see, at least I can talk about the time that I got promoted. There is no relationship between how hard I work, actually coding hard, and getting promoted, which is a little bit weird for me. What I've noticed is usually I get promoted because someone from higher up kind of talk a good thing about me without me even knowing. And they are in the room and then they push me. But at the same time, I do work hard. But usually there is always that someone somewhere that might be a manager of a manager that kind of see you and then they're like, okay, I like this person. Let's find a way to get him promoted, which is great. But at the same time, it's not that so great. Hear me out, right? If there's only 3% of people who looks like me, there's a probability of the people upstairs to not even know if I exist, right? Because it's easier to see yourself into someone who looks like you. When most people don't really look like you, sometimes I feel like I'm left behind in those type of conversation. And the pattern that I've seen is most time I get promoted, it's probably some Asian, also women that would really those Asian women that are high up. They are the one who would send the cord for me to climb. But maybe it's just the way. Maybe it's not true. I don't know because I'm not in this room. But so far that was the pattern that I've seen. I am more likely to be handing some help from a woman, from a minority, right, than I am from any other group. I'm not saying it's not fair or if it's fair because I don't make the rules, right? That's how society works. And regardless of anything people say, that's how it works. And sometimes what I find a little bit painful, I would say, would be students that I went to school with that would copy my code. Well, not copy my code, sometimes you collaborate with other students when you have very difficult assignment. And then there are some of those students you actually have to tell them this is the solution. Like you don't give them your code, but you kind of wrote the solution. They might not necessarily be the best programmer or the best engineer, but because they're born here, they speak English way better than me. It's weird. Now, when I look at them, these people are like staff engineer, like architect. And And sometimes I feel it painful. It's a little bit painful, right? Like, oh, that student that copied me, how come he's always the architect and I'm just like a regular senior engineer, right? So as an African American, like a black software engineer, sometimes you really actually have to do the work. Like you actually really, really, really have to do the work. And if you are waiting for someone, from a higher level position to throw the cord for you to climb, unfortunately, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen that easily, or you're kind of like invisible. And while I cannot talk for everyone, I can only talk for myself. Maybe I myself have certain things that I have to work. For example, spend less time coding and more time talking to people, which I found lately has been the best way to push your career forward, right? I think in the beginning, I had a tendency to actually get the work done and move on, go home. But I found that when people can connect with you and can relate to you and can see you as a human, and when these conversations are happening behind door, they would definitely say, "Hey, I've seen this dude. He's really good. He solved my problem. He was very professional." And then they can, when those, review cycle happen, and they will definitely come and help you and get you promoted. Other thing as a black software engineer, I have to do all the time, which I really don't like, even with all of my credentials, is this idea that I consistently have to prove myself all the time, every time I have a new manager. So far, the pattern have not been for people that are minority. Like if I have a manager that is, a minority and things like that, I'm less likely have to prove myself to him. But I've seen that weird pattern where I feel like I have like a big, how do you call this in English? When I have like a big microscope looking at every move that I make, that's usually happened first time I join your team, where I actually have to really prove myself. It's hard for me to know if that is the same experience that everybody are having, right? But I can only talk about my experience. Again, I'm not saying this so that you can feel any type of pity or mercy. Regardless, I get paid. It's usually with time, right? I gain people's trust and confidence. But sometimes I wish I could have that upfront where I did not have to demonstrate it. Based on my experience and based on things that I have done. But I guess, it's the reality of things. I think that was also another reason why I went for a higher degree. Even though I went to the best school, I still had to go to another best school, which is Georgia Institute of Technology, just so that I can shut down this idea that I have to consistently prove myself. Because I think it's sometimes slow me down. And if everything I do, I know people are going to poke in every angle of it, then I have a tendency to not do things. And if you don't do risky thing, you don't get to be pushed forward. Now I'm more confident in terms of doing risky thing and be okay with the consequences. But it took me a while to kind of like, see this pattern. Because, when you're in school, you get graded based on your actual performance, right? Either you get all the solution correct or you don't. And there is no amount of discussion, there is a solution, right? But when you're working, I don't think sometimes they want the correct solution. I feel like sometimes they just want you to do some secret dance that some people know the dance. And if you do that dance, then you get promoted, right? And I don't know. Maybe again, I'm saying this from my perspective. It's really difficult for me to know other people's perspective. So if you had that same experience as an African American or a minority in the software engineering field, I would really love to hear from it. I'm not trying to create any division and things, because we all know how reality works. Reality doesn't work exactly in a fair way. And I think having the ability to navigate it and understanding it and take that knowledge and use it to your advantage, it's what matters. But a good thing about it is I'm becoming very good at what I do because I know I'm consistently being, having to prove myself. So it always make me put the best work forward. And I think that's something that everybody have to do. But like, I don't know, maybe everything I say it's in my head. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe the other people that used to copy to my assignment get promoted because they're really good, or at least because they can communicate way better than I do. At the end of the day, English is not my first language, so I struggle sometimes to communicate in a proper way, an easy way. Maybe that's what's slowing me down compared to other people. But when the rubber hit the road, when I have to solve a problem, I can actually solve it. But I think people sometimes care more about your ability to convince them that this is the right solution or this is the best solution, which is my responsibility to grow. It's not other people's fault. So that's pretty much it. That's what has been my experience as a African American. No one has ever disrespected me openly. No one has ever mistreated me, and I have to kind of give credit when it's due. Sometimes when I'm in bad situation, I have other group that would throw the cord, to me to get me out of that bad situation. So honestly, I don't think I don't know. It depends who you. I think your environment where you get landed has a big impact, right? Sometimes you find other people that genuinely wants to help you, and sometimes there's nothing you can do under the sun for them to see you. You may have to, put yourself on fire. But at the same time, I just accept it. I just do everything in my power to be as good in what I'm doing as possible. I consistently continue to improve my education, either like formally by going to grad school or informally by talking to teammates. And again, no one has openly tell me anything, right? And no one had, no one had openly say anything wrong with me, right? I'm glad that at least I can, I can see things for what they are. But sometimes I wish I get that benefit of the doubt, or sometimes I wish that I didn't have to really work. I could just get picked and get promoted. That doesn't work for me. If it works for you, share it with me. But yeah, that's been my experience as a minority in the software engineering field, working professionally. Share your experience here. I'm curious to hear it. I wanted to know if I'm the only one who does it. And again, I'm not looking for sympathy or pity or anything because, like at the end of the day, I've been always employed. I've always worked with the best teammate, and I've always been in situation where I can grow. Except that I wish that there are more people like me at a higher level so that they can vouch for me. But it's not my fault that there's only 3% of me, not me, people who looks like me in the field. And I just have to swallow my pride and keep going with it. Tell me, is that true? Do you feel the same way that people who are at a certain level has a tendency to promote people who looks like them, or it's easier for them to promote people who looks like them? I've seen it's also slightly easier to get a higher level by switching job. So I do that if I feel like, okay, now it's time for me to earn more money. But at the same time, everybody has their own experience. I'm not bashing anyone. I'm just sharing mine. Thank you very much. I hope this was informative and you've learned something new. Drop a comment, share your experience, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.